Forget your friendly neighborhood gods who grant wishes and rainbows. These ancient deities didn't bless crops. They cursed bloodlines. From child-eating titans to plague-happy overlords, we're diving into the divine HR department's absolute worst hires. Buckle up, because even hell took notes from these guys. Lamashtu. Lamashtu is an ancient Mesopotamian demon goddess, blamed for infant mortality, nightmares, and corrupting the womb itself. If hell had a mother, it would be her, and she wouldn't even bother to name you before devouring your child in the night. Lamashtu isn't content with pain. She wants to chew on it. She's not a bringer of death, no. She's a curator of decay, a collector of cribs turned coffins. This isn't myth as metaphor. This is myth as menace. The worst part? She doesn't do it for justice or vengeance, or even because she's a pawn of some larger divine plan. No. Lamashtu eats babies because it delights her. She drinks the blood of men like it's room-temperature Merlot, and rips fetuses from wombs as casually as plucking fruit from a cursed orchard. And yet, the ancients feared her so much they gave her prayers. They made offerings. Imagine being so horrifying that people offer you worship just to keep you away. In a world obsessed with redemption arcs and tragic villains, Lamashtu is a reminder. Some forces don't want to be understood. They only want to be fed. Kali. Kali is a Hindu goddess often misunderstood. She is associated with death, destruction, time, and the fierce love of chaos. There are no soft lights when Kali enters the frame. Only teeth, blood, and a garland made from your ancestors' regret. She doesn't kill because she has to. She kills because the universe is lazy, and she is not. There's no moral compass, only a spinning wheel made of bones and bad decisions. Imagine giving form to entropy itself. Now make it dance. That's Kali. Worshippers don't pray to her so much as negotiate with her. She is the line between devotion and madness. Sometimes she helps you. Sometimes she helps herself to you. You can't predict her because chaos doesn't need a reason. It just needs rhythm, and her drumbeat is your heartbeat. Ending. People try to soften her, reframe her as a metaphor for female empowerment. That's cute. But Kali isn't a hashtag. She's a hurricane. And you are a sandcastle shaped like denial. Set, or Seth, is the Egyptian god of chaos, storms, deserts, and violence. He murdered his brother Osiris and played cosmic tug-of-war with order. Oh, Set, the drama queen of divine murderers. He didn't just kill Osiris, he dismembered him, scattered the parts like deranged IKEA instructions, then watched the kingdom descend into mythological mayhem. If evil was theatre, Set wrote the script, cast himself in the lead, and set the stage on fire for laughs. This isn't your usual sibling rivalry. This is divine fratricide mixed with sandstorms, paranoia, and the kind of unstable masculinity that would make even Zeus say, "You okay, bro?" What made Set so terrifying wasn't just that he killed a god. It's that he broke the sacred balance and then dared the world to fix it. He spat on legacy. He rewrote the family tree with blood. And worst of all, he convinced entire cults to see his betrayal as divine necessity. In some versions, he redeems himself, helps battle the chaos serpent Apophis. Don't buy it. Set doesn't change. He just gets better PR. He's not the villain who ruins everything. He's the villain who asks, what if nothing was ever worth saving in the first place? Tezcatlipoca. Tezcatlipoca is an Aztec god of sorcery, conflict, and chaos. Known as Smoking Mirror, he's a shapeshifter who toys with humanity like a cat plays with a dying bird. Oh, you think Loki is mischievous? That's adorable. Tezcatlipoca laughs in obsidian. He doesn't trick you to teach a lesson. He tricks you because your suffering makes better music than your prayers ever did. His mirror doesn't reflect your face, it reflects your future funeral, your most grotesque insecurity, the moment your pride bloomed into downfall. He doesn't bring war because it's necessary. He brings it because watching cities bleed entertains him. He's the God who gives kings power, then whispers poison into their ears. He's the voice behind the madness, the shadow in the sacrifice. When he walks into your life, it's not with a sword, it's with a smirk, a cloud of smoke, and the sound of your soul unraveling. His rituals involved human hearts still beating, not for nourishment, for aesthetics. Tezcatlipoca is not the destroyer. He's the puppeteer of destruction, the divine sociopath who writes tragedies and demands applause. Ereshkigal. Ereshkigal is the Sumerian goddess of the underworld. She rules over death, not with cruelty, but with suffocating indifference. Ereshkigal doesn't scream. She stares, quietly, eternally. Because what is more terrifying than a god who doesn't hate you, just doesn't care if you rot? The living cannot comprehend her, because she is the absence of all that living requires. No warmth, no hope, just law and shadow. She's not sadistic, she's absolute. Her underworld has no exit and no welcome sign. Her story bleeds with decay. When her sister Inanna dared visit the realm, Ereshkigal had her stripped, judged, killed, and nailed to a wall. Not out of rage, just rules. She wept afterward. Maybe. Or maybe that's just what the dead heard, to make their doom feel more personal. Even the other gods tread lightly around her, because power that needs no recognition is the deadliest kind. She is the throne at the end of all journeys. She doesn't chase you, you arrive. Huitzilopochtli. Huitzilopochtli is the Aztec god of war and the sun. His power runs on blood, and his legacy is painted in rivers of sacrifice. He rose from his mother's womb already armed, slaughtered his siblings the second he was born, and became the patron deity of a people who perfected death into ritual. Imagine a god whose entire existence is fueled by a daily diet of human hearts. Not metaphorically, literally. Thousands, yes, thousands sacrificed just to keep him moving across the sky. The sun didn't rise. It clawed its way out of the grave. And every day humanity had to pay for its light in screams. He's not evil in the twist-the-mustache way. He's evil in the you were born into this blood contract and you will pay in kind of way. And the worst part? His people loved him. They obeyed him. They offered children, warriors, slaves willingly. He turned devotion into industrialized murder. He made cities into altars and time itself into a countdown to the next slaughter. This is a god who didn't just demand loyalty. He demanded lighters. Moloch. Moloch is an ancient god associated with child sacrifice, particularly in Carthaginian and Levantine traditions. A furnace with a crown. You know you're dealing with unspeakable evil when historians debate not whether child sacrifice happened, but whether it was so common that they ran out of babies. Moloch is fire with a name, hunger with a shrine. His statues were built with outstretched arms of metal, superheated until they glowed red. Into those arms screaming went the children. Infants. Toddlers. The unwanted. The chosen. All were equal in the oven. Parents weren't coerced. They marched willingly, singing hymns, while drums drowned out the cries of the burning. You don't get more evil than that. You get institutionalized horror. Moloch is the god of society gone feral, when sacrifice becomes currency and ash becomes tradition. And here's the thing. We still invoke his name. Ginsberg screamed it in Howl. Critics name-drop him to describe capitalism, politics, war machines, because Moloch isn't gone. He just updated his branding. Moloch is the god you worship when you convince yourself that evil is efficiency. Cronus. Cronus is the Greek titan who overthrew his father Uranus, only to eat his own children to avoid the same fate. He wasn't a villain. He was an Ouroboros wearing a crown. The embodiment of inherited trauma so toxic it chews its lineage alive. Let's get this straight. Cronus wasn't just paranoid. He knew prophecy said one of his children would destroy him. So he devoured them whole, screaming, one by one. Not out of hunger, out of fear, out of power lust, out of spite against time itself. He ate the future. That's what evil is. A refusal to let the world evolve without you. A rejection of mortality so absolute you become a cannibal of your own legacy. And it gets more disgusting. He left his wife, Rhea, to weep alone while her children vanished into his gut. She eventually tricked him, swapped baby Zeus with a rock, and when Zeus grew up, he made Cronus vomit them all out. Full-grown, traumatized. Cronus ruled during the so-called Golden Age. Funny how peace is just silence when your children are missing and no one asks questions. He didn't just birth a dynasty, he birthed dysfunction. Dagon is a Mesopotamian god, later twisted into a monstrous sea deity in Lovecraftian lore. A forgotten fish god, drowned in madness. Dagon started as a grain god. Peaceful. Useful. Then came the sea. Then came horror. By the time Lovecraft resurrected his name, Dagon had become something else entirely. An oceanic abomination worshipped by the deep ones, half-fish humanoids who bred with coastal cultists. A god that smells of salt, decay, and birth defects. A deity that looks at humanity and sees not followers, but breeding stock. Worshipping Dagon is less about theology and more about transformation. Into something slick, cold, and no longer entirely human. His temples aren't built. They surface, pulsing with barnacles and secrets. Dagon doesn't speak. He dreams. He seeps. He waits beneath the waves with the patience of eternity. When you finally hear his voice, it comes from your own gills. He is the boundary between evolution and nightmare, between worship and mutation, between the fisherman and the bait, the God of the Book of Job. In the Hebrew Bible, the Book of Job features a depiction of God who allows immense suffering to test the faith of his most loyal servant. No names changed, no symbols filtered, just the rawest, most haunting portrayal of cosmic indifference ever canonized. Because in the Book of Job, God doesn't protect his faithful servant. He targets him for a bet. Yes, a bet. Satan, or the adversary, rolls in, smug as ever, and says, "Hey, maybe Job only loves you because his life's amazing." And instead of, I don't know, laughing and throwing lightning bolts at the suggestion, God says, "You know what? Let's ruin him and find out." Job loses everything. His cattle, his servants, his children dead in a collapsing house. His body erupts in boils. His friends mock him. His wife begs him to curse God and die. And through it all, Job remains faithful, desperately, furiously faithful. And what does God do? He shows up in a storm and says, essentially, "Shut up!" "Were you there when I made the stars?" "No." "Then sit down." He never explains himself. Never apologizes, just asserts dominance over a broken man whose only crime was loyalty. It's not justice. It's performance art. And Job? He thanks him anyway. Because what choice does he have? This isn't the God of comfort. This is the God of control. Of silence stretched over screams. Of omnipotent ego. The God of Job doesn't murder cities or demand child sacrifices. He simply permits agony, then calls it divine design. And if that isn't the darkest god of them all, then maybe the darkness isn't in the god. Maybe it's in us, for still calling it holy. Thank you for watching the whole video. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe.